Oh, thank you. Oh my God, this is so good.
I know, this is so cool.
I
And
know.
it's been so many years too. And I
2010, was
I
it?
mean, I've seen you since then, but I
Yeah.
mean that event in Buzios,
Yeah.
that was that was around that time, right?
2010. It
Yeah,
was
so
our 10th anniversary. Yes, yes,
yes,
yes.
and that was, I think, I want to say it was the single best conference.
Really?
Yes, but overall, because of what it entailed, there was the pre-Olympic, excitement,
That is true.
and
Yes.
and some of those presentations were like really different and impactful.
Yeah.
And I remember one where they're talking about going to favelas, and I think it was Coca-Cola
Yes. Yes.
and what they were doing for the community, and it just kind of, it was touching and also very impactful at the same time.
Yeah. You were.
And I learned a lot about just how to present content in an emotional way and also data driven,
Because there was a lot
there
of
were a lot of
metrics.
data,
Yes, yes,
lots of
yes.
metrics.
So that person is like a professional. He was my business partner.
Oh, really?
But he was the VP of marketing for
Okay.
Coca-Cola. He was the marketing director. He became VP of sustainability
Yeah.
after that project. So it was a beautiful project. It was really
The
amazing.
concept was great and it was local. I love these projects that help people that are local. And then you can also kind of learn what would work and for that community too, right?
Exactly.
And I think what I remember just a few key facts being thrown out,
Yeah.
and then it caught my attention and I'm like, okay, now I'm hooked. I really want to know more.
Yeah.
And also the fact that they relied so much on visuals, and that PowerPoint type of thing was just not a concept at that event. It was more like, and it wasn't TED Talk either, it was more casual.
It was.
So
That's
I
true,
felt
yeah.
like that was a really great thing.
Just to clarify, it was called Think Latin America, the events that we
Yeah,
organized. It
yeah.
was the first one that we did in Buzios. So you came in and I said, arrive in Rio, I'll take care of you after that.
Yeah.
And we did. So we stayed
did.
everyone at the same hotel. Oh, it was so good. We stayed everyone at the same hotel, and the idea was to bring people from outside of the industry.
Yeah.
Of course, one of them was my husband at the time. The other was my business partner.
Right.
But these were like directors and VPs. There was Marcelo, who was the CMO of MGM. A funny one. Remember him? That he had, I have a 134 number or something.
Right. Yes.
You presented. You presented with
Cleo and
Yes.
I co-presented. I remember working on the last parts of the presentation with her in the hotel right beforehand, which is always what happens, right? And especially since like she was in the Netherlands and I was in LA, and just kind of trying to coordinate it. But we talked a lot about BRICS, like, the BRICS
that's
countries,
right.
and
Yes.
how that was like just sort of an emerging phenomenon, and that it wasn't just like the traditional like groups that contribute like economically. There are all these other countries that have like a big force and a point of view, and I felt like being also in,
But I think
in
that was the reason,
Brazil
because
with
we were
that,
talking
yeah.
about Think Brazil, and
Right,
you brought the
yeah.
BRICS. It was amazing.
No, and I went to a follow-up one in, it wasn't Mountain View, but somewhere in Northern California. You had to
Mountain
think,
View, yes,
was it
the
Mountain View?
winery.
Yeah,
You
the
went- oh,
winery.
yes,
Yes, I went there
yes.
too.
It was the second. It was the
Yeah,
the
that was
follow-up
that was
edition.
cool
That
too.
was
That
cool.
was, and it's much larger too. I
I think it was.
Yeah.
We had a nice lunch outside. It was beautiful. Yeah.
It was really nice. I mean,
Marco was there too. He presented again.
Okay.
So I'm not sure which one, the Coca-Cola guy. I don't know whether he I think he presented the project. It was a project that was an award-winning project.
Right.
He developed in Brazil, and then they launched globally. It was this, and he was the one responsible for the project. I think that was it, but in Silicon Valley, not in Brazil. I don't remember.
yeah. Well, the presentation in Brazil, like not just that one, but some of the other ones, you could sense people's excitement having to do with the Olympics coming, and just, I mean, and I know like being from LA when I was a kid, we had the Olympics there, and
yes, that's true.
it was such a pivotal moment for me, and now we're having it again. The next
true,
Olympics will be in
yes,
LA.
yes.
So I know how big of a deal that is, and how much like it just inspires kids too.
It does.
A whole generation will see what all these sports are, and from all walks of life, people come, and I think all different countries, you get this exposure to like something international.
And we had just one. It was the World Cup and the Olympics.
Right.
So
right.
yeah, because it
That's
would
right.
happen later. Yes. It happened.
Yes.
By then, the country was a mess. 2014, 2016, it wasn't good. I
Yeah.
mean, it works. The World Cup was a little, but it's football. I'm not a big fan. But the Olympics was still
Yeah.
good. It
Yeah.
was still good. But we were in crisis already. So all the excitement didn't last that much.
Oh, well, but I do remember that being like something, I'll never forget those presentations. I mean, what they did with the IOC to present, like they recreated the room. And I mean, that was impressive, right?
That's true.
So, I mean, how many groups actually go to that extent to
That is
to
true.
do? So it was there was a lot there that wasn't like the tradition, like these events that we're participating in now, localization focus, and they can be technical. That this was about like situations and how they can maybe transform a community or transform individuals, and I felt like that was what made that event impactful, and plus it was like super fun, and
was
like
fun.
we
It
had a
was
good
fun, yeah.
time, right?
And I think there was,
Yeah.
there was a lot of content being generated around that.
Yeah.
And at that time that we didn't have social media, I think.
Yeah.
We were
No, you
starting
know
to
what?
talk.
Okay, so this was the first time that a presentation that I'm participating in was tweeted, and I don't know, it was
Oh,
it was
right.
right when
Yes,
this like
yes.
it was now obviously it's X, but it was the
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah,
And
it's just
we
started.
had a bunch of people in the room on their phones, and I was like, "Aren't they paying attention?" It's
hashtag.
like, yeah, right. Aren't you paying attention to me, like presenting what with this content? But no, I mean, it actually like people contacted me after that. They're like, I can't, your presentation is like live with, comments and all of that. And it was kind of a cool
True,
thing,
it's true.
right?
I think
Yeah.
we went through a time when everybody was that. So you were giving a presentation,
Yeah.
everybody was on their
Yeah.
phones quoting
It's like they're not looking at you.
Yeah, no.
And so it was kind of like, okay. And I guess now it's just normal. And I think people have kind of come around to actually listening and being
we're
more
back to that.
present.
Yeah, I
more
think,
present. Yeah.
People are exactly feeling the present instead of projecting into the future or trying to show
Yeah.
to other people.
Yeah.
So, but you were at St. Jude at the time. Now you were with Medtronic. What's else about it?
Yeah,
Cleo
well,
was
so I've kind of taken my journey, my professional journey.
Yeah.
And and Cleo and I also were collaborating quite a bit with Roundtables and all of that. And
Do you still do it?
we stopped doing those
Okay.
roundtables, but we did have kind of like we both made a cameo appearance together at one of the LocWorlds for during the pandemic, and we did a remote type of thing, and it was cool to kind of come back together. And
People loved it. I remember it was a hit.
Yes.
You had it every year. It was the two of you.
we
all
had it
together.
twice a year actually.
because
So
you
we
did
had a North
US
America
and
and in
Europe,
Europe,
of
yeah.
course.
So we did all different. Yeah, I mean, we were in Montreal, we were in Seattle, Santa Clara. We did all of them, and then in Europe, of course, like we were Berlin and I think we started around Bonn, but we went to Barcelona and
Nice.
and all of the events that happened there, and you also get the flavor of where you are and the input, and it was nice to have it in those two different venues. We never did one in the APAC region, but it just didn't work out.
Because they started doing, I was talking to Anne-Marie the other day, they started,
Yeah.
they did a few, but after the pandemic, they had to cut.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
complicated
Yeah.
traveling there and all with the travel restrictions and everything. They said, no, it's not going to
Yeah, and people I think are just sort of in the last couple of years getting back into this mode of wanting to explore and be in larger events, but I also feel like it was good to have that moment to be more mindful of yourself and like where you are, even just like in this presentation that we had this morning, the keynote.
Oh my God, who is
talking about like this concept that nature is we are a part of nature, and to be able to observe nature, especially during those early months, years of the pandemic.
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
I noticed the trees growing, or the hummingbirds, or things like that I wasn't really aware of just around my house. So
Right, you
right,
stop to pay attention. There is a
right.
beautiful documentary about this period during the pandemic. Remember when you saw those animals crossing the street and everything.
Yeah.
But it shows some I think in India, there's a guy came up to his roof and he said, "Oh my God, there's a mountain there," because it was always polluted. They
Right.
couldn't see, but they could. I think it was the Himalayas. Could it be? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
that was
right
it.
there. Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
see from a
Yeah,
distance.
similar in LA. I mean, I think Rika was living in LA. She was mentioning that. I was in LA during that time, and
Uh-huh.
just having the less air traffic, cars on the road, the pollution level went way down. You could feel that it was like just healthier all around,
Everything,
and then
yeah.
there was more wildlife out there. And there are very like these moments in time when things stop like that,
It's
and
true.
then you kind of
Yeah.
realize that like,
It's
okay,
just-
we're part of a larger, it isn't just about like the hustle and trying to get from point A to point B, or
And she said something very interesting. I think it was the concept of her husband, that we are the thin client, and there's this the server or this overhead structure.
Because
that is-
he's got
yes,
kind of
we're
this
all part of
computer,
it.
yeah,
If
science
you think
mind,
about
yeah.
it, it's just insane how everything is so interconnected. And
Yeah.
we still don't understand how. But I
Yeah.
think there was a moment where life itself, or the earth or whatever, said, okay, we need a break here. We need to remind these folks what life is all about. And I think it was what we may have lost that that concept very quickly.
Maybe, but I think there are some lasting benefits from that period.
I think so too.
And the work world has made working remotely not uncommon, and depending on what your role is. But before it was sort of like you need to be present in a physical space, but it's taught us that, yeah, you can find talent for your team wherever they happen to reside. And yes, it's really important to have meetings face to face and to get together. But it's also can be very productive and effective to use all the technology. And luckily, we had advanced Zoom and video conferencing
Yeah.
and all of that was at that level where a lot of organizations could be effective and not have the stress of bringing people on site.
But now it's back. So all the tech companies are forcing people to go back to work. I was talking to a couple of
Yeah,
them here.
that's true.
Is it happening with you as well?
I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, in the med device area, I guess. I think that, I wouldn't say forcing. I mean, sure, the policies have changed, but a lot of people are deciding they want to be back. And
Okay.
it's because they're getting more done when they do have their time in the office.
Is
And
it true?
if you are writing email and you write 3 or 4 or 5 messages, and you can take care of that connection and resolve the issue through a conversation of 10 minutes or 15
is true.
minutes.
That is true.
These types
Yeah.
of things are very beneficial. If you, there are moments where, like with the type of work that my team does, a lot of our team, our tech writers, they value time to be, in a space where they don't have disruptions. And that's also important. So I think that there's a balance. Having people together so you can have a quick discussion, quick resolution to topics, and then also having the time where you're dedicated, because a lot of these spaces and most offices are very much open.
That's
And
true.
so depending
Yeah.
on what type of work you're doing, it might be more conducive to be, remote.
Let me go back to your work. You said yesterday that you've been doing more than the text, and you now working into multimedia. Are you creating content or just localizing?
Creating a ton of content. So
Wow.
what we do is we're trying to transform the patient experience, and in our case, we have direct contact with patients.
Okay.
Patients are at the core of anything related to diabetes. It's not like sure, patients are at the core of other types of medical device technology, but I would say with this technology, it's very personal, and it's daily or could be hourly. When you're using, a pump or infusion set or anything related to just controlling your sugar levels,
Yeah.
it's something that people need to learn how to do. It isn't fully automated, although the technology is expanding, and some of the recent products from Medtronic, from other companies, and bringing together some of these organizations so that you compare like a sensor and a pump from different companies. That is helping patients, and there are some algorithms that are amazing. I mean, there's this one that's in this a pump that's meal detection every 5 minutes, auto. Like if you don't do anything, it just takes care of it on its own.
Wow.
So if you just want to like set it and forget it type of thing,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. I mean, it's not completely, but helps a great deal with parents if they have kids. Like I hear these stories like they'd have to get up at night to check, do finger pricks and all of that. The technology is actually helping people
Okay.
in a real way. And I think what we're doing with that as far as like communicating to these patients is not just relying on like a static document or like a PDF file. It's a lot of animations. Some of that is on YouTube, but a lot of it's embedded in the apps, so that you can see without actually having to read through and kind of visualize it. We're displaying it for the patient so that they can see in a very simple way. This is how
This is really
apply
cool.
the product. Yeah, it's very cool, and it's more relevant. And I think this concept of having like these documents, they're regulatory or legal. Yes, they still satisfy a purpose, and especially if you need detailed information, but you can complement it or even sometimes substitute for it using different types of media. And that's starting to become more the norm. It becomes a part of the submission for the product. So if you get approval from one of the regulatory agencies, you would get approval for, like, in some cases, the video or the animation
Do you have
embedded
to
in the app.
submit for approval?
Oh,
Whatever
yeah.
piece of content they? Oh, really?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
all of this, it's highly, with good reason, highly regulated.
Sure.
And it goes through a process. In the U.S. would be the FDA, in Canada, Health Canada, TGA in Australia, and we have notified bodies like for CE mark in Europe.
So your workflow is completely different now. I mean, it was already because of the regulatory bodies and everything, the
Yeah.
approval process, but now you're generating content, original content. So you're in several languages or just English?
Oh no, it's in many different languages. Yeah.
The content generated originally
Well,
in other languages
the
too.
content is originally in English in most cases.
Yeah.
But depending on the market that this particular product is going to be submitted in and then ultimately distributed in, then it would have different language combinations. So
Okay.
believe it or not, like in the US, we've got English, Spanish, and simplified Chinese.
Okay.
Okay. And some of that is in part for like how the product might be submitted in other markets, but there's an understanding that like in the US there's a large Spanish speaking population that could make use of this, and so it makes sense to have that. In other markets, I mean, there are, depending on what it is, it could be up to like 39 languages. It could be,
Wow.
yeah. Not all of what we do is translated into every language.
Sure.
And also the user interface compared to what like might be in documentation. There might be like, script and it might not be dubbed, for instance, if we've got video. And
You
like
mentioned
super
multimedia, so you're
Yeah.
creating all kinds of content in several formats as well.
Yeah, yeah. Different formats, right?
Wow.
Right. And it's really, if you think about it, like if you are, say you're using this product for the first time, you want your experience to be something like seamless,
True.
easy. If you're not getting that, you're probably going to go to another source anyway. So we're trying to make it so that you could have one location to go to, a simple experience, and then for the people who need more information, they have that available as well.
Okay.
But there are many things that are there more for regulatory purposes, and that's still the case. But we're trying to make it so that the patient can really see what they need to see to be, safe, and, to use the product in a way that meets their individual needs.
Really nice.
Yeah.
And do you track the metrics of this new concept that you're generating? How?
Oh, that's a good question. There are metrics for the product.
Okay.
There's a huge element of customer-centered design and human factors that it goes into the basically the design of the product. It isn't unique to the labeling aspects, which is what my team does.
Okay.
But we do track certain pieces of this. Maybe there'll be a question here or there in a survey that's part of a larger survey. It's like how what's the ease of use for the product, and that includes, like, did you find this quick reference guide or instructions for use useful, that type of thing.
Nice.
We're not tracking it like externally, like directly
Okay.
with the customer, but we do have opportunities to interact with the customer. There are focus groups, and our human factors team really does more of that.
Okay.
And then there's, upstream, the customer-centered design. It's pretty impressive what level
I'm
of...
very impressed.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's, there's a regulation part, and every company that makes these products has to meet a certain baseline,
Right.
which is to the benefit of all of us, right? But then there's like this other extra element. How can you delight the customer? We worked on many projects that focus on labeling, including localization, and how can we delight the customer? I think another element of it is it's not traditional localization. We're not actually indicating this product for use by certain parties, but we do want them to be more accessible. So that would mean listening to patients who are visually impaired. Or,
I was wondering
yes,
about that. I had this conversation before.
and also making use of whatever's already out there. Like it could be just being mindful of, like, describing an image in some way, so that it's not just, you're not relying on somebody being able to see it.
Right. Okay.
But it's a work in progress. I mean, the products are not meant to be used or indicated for use by individuals per se who are visually impaired, but
Okay.
but they are obviously used by patients of all different, conditions. And certainly if you're talking about diabetes, there's a population who do, over time have vision impairment and
Okay.
sometimes blindness.
Oh, because it's caused by.
Yeah, right,
So
right, yeah.
I don't think we can talk about it later, but we can talk about it later.
Yeah.
Tell me who you are now. It's the diabetes.
Yes, I'm Richard Korn, and yes, I know we just started talking, but I'm Richard Korn, and I lead the technical communications team for Medtronic Diabetes. So that's a part of the family of Medtronic products.
Perfect.
So.
And do you want to let me congratulate you on the other subject? Are you okay to talk about?
Sure.
It? Yes.
Yes.
You just had.
Yes, definitely. I'm excited about that. So I have my second son. He's 8 weeks old, and yes, he's definitely he's very social already. Wants to be right there with his older brother, who's 2.5.
So adorable.
And we. It's hard to believe because it really took a lot to get to this point, and a lot of different, like, personal and career decisions. But ultimately like completely like no regrets at all, and very
Wonderful.
much, yeah. I mean, it's a journey, surrogacy journey, and IVF and all of that, and it's a very it's powerful and emotional, and you know, there are so many people who are just giving of themselves in this
It's a whole
process.
network. You were
It's a
talking
it's
about it.
a
Yes.
yes, it's a full network of and in our
Before
case,
and after, you said you have a lot of
yes, well,
support from your in-laws.
we have, I guess, my the grandparents came from India to support us, and this is the second time around. So it's, you know, because they came the first time and really lent a hand. My parents are around as well,
Oh, nice.
but yeah, I'm grateful for having the support in our home every day in those early days, and especially with a two and a half year old
You're so brave.
he's super active and really excited, and also we are mindful of the fact that we want him to feel special, and he is. He's a very special person. So just having the extra support is great.
That's wonderful.
And we are maintaining contact with our the surrogates
You
who
mentioned,
yeah,
yeah,
they're beautiful people, and the families that they have,
beautiful.
and that it's just a great extension of, you know, expansion of our own family.
Wonderful.
And well, we're planning to be in contact indefinitely, and hoping that we can at least see the our surrogates once a year.
That's
So
so
we can, it's,
wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. So it's worked out so far with our older son, and with the newborn. It's, you know,
And
actually already worked out with him too, because we had a nice visit
it's
with
true. Oh,
them, and
yes, you told. Yes,
yes,
yes, so
yes,
sweet.
yeah.
And Dad is saying already, "Come back, Richard. I need your help
Yes, right.
nowadays."
Oh, you mean
Your partner, yes.
yes, yeah. He's Papa and I'm Dad.
Okay.
Yes, but yes, he's not. No, he's got things under control. He's
Okay,
fine,
that's good.
but he'll have his time to travel next week, and then we'll have a little bit of parity with
Okay,
that.
that's good.
But yeah, it's a very special time. It can be a time very exhausting, but it's I get to derive some energy from, I don't know if it's a chemical thing, but it's just the adrenaline and all that. So yeah, I never, honestly, I never thought that I would be married. I never thought that I would have kids.
We
I would
don't.
have two kids.
And
Yeah.
we're the same age. At
Right.
our time, there was not a possibility. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember being told, "You're gonna have a miserable life if you pursue this." It's like, what am I gonna do?
Well, you wouldn't be able to do some of the things that maybe you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know about you, but I figured, I mean, I need to stay true to myself, um, and it ended up working out even better,
Yes,
right?
better.
Because I mean, I don't, I think everybody has their own journey, and what is meaningful to them, and I think you know, I'm grateful for my family, for my husband and kids, and also for all of the family support from my siblings, and my parents, and my husband's family as well. Everybody's right there, and it's a whole community. It's
And it
just
requires a whole, yeah,
yes. I mean, it is like a village, but
village,
it's a
yeah.
little trite, but it's the way it's the way it's working out, and I think I don't know. I mean, it gives your life some richness that it's, you know, I still feel like I have the richness from other facets, but then it's just adding to that.
It's just adding, yeah. It's
Yeah,
another,
yeah, and I mean,
another
I'm
layer.
very excited for you, and what, you know.
You with all
Well,
the
yes.
moves.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, just finding your soulmate, and like,
Yeah.
and all of those
Thank you,
the
Richard. Oh,
adventures
so
that you're taking.
sweet. That's so
Well, I
sweet.
mean, you
Thank
know,
you.
and I mean, hopefully I'll get to see you in Valencia.
I'd love that.
Yeah,
Yes,
it'd be nice.
you
Yeah.
bring all the family. Let's
Yeah.
have fun.
Yeah,
I'd
no, I
love
mean,
that.
Spain is a great place, you know, and yeah, so that'll be cool.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Richard, thank you so much.
Oh,
This
sure.
was a
Yeah, no,
pleasure.
this
It
has
was
been
such
really
a good
nice. Yeah.
reunion. Emma's around. We should meet with her later.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Thank
yeah,
you so
okay.
much, Richard. Thank
All
you.
right, here.
Give us a hug.
All right.
Thank
Thanks.
you.